Good morning, everyone. My name is George Chahal. I'm the Member of Parliament for Calgary Skyview. It's great to be at home here in Alberta in the beautiful city of Edmonton. I would like to begin by acknowledging that we are on Treaty 6 territory. We honor the people that have called these lands their home. Let me also recognize that my good friend and Edmonton's tireless advocate, Randy Boissonnault, who unfortunately could not be here out of an abundance of caution, learning today that a close contact had an inconclusive test for COVID-19. I know, as one of the Startup Edmonton founders, how much he would want to be with us here today. Together, Randy and I are working every day to advocate for Alberta within our Liberal government. And I could not ask for a better partner to be with on Team Alberta. Today, we are at Startup Edmonton, a division of Innovate Edmonton, to talk about how Budget 2022 can help small businesses grow. Entrepreneurs who took their ideas and turned them into successful businesses surround us today. We're here to talk about how our government will help these businesses grow and how we'll keep working to support small businesses and grow the Alberta economy. Prime Minister, over to you.
Thank you so much, George. Good morning, everyone. Glad to be here. I have to, like George did, say how disappointed I think we all are not to have Randy Boissonnault here today. Out of an abundance of caution, he is not able to join us, but he's not entirely without a presence here. On the wall behind me, on the founders of Startup Edmonton, third name down in the front, in the top row, is Randy Boissonnault. He has been an extraordinary driving force here in Edmonton for success for a long time, and we are incredibly lucky to have him as part of our team, leading the way as Minister of Tourism and Associate Minister of Finance. He's always there to advocate alongside George for the interests of Alberta, but he's also been incredibly busy over the past number of months as Associate Minister of Finance, delivering an amazing budget that's having a huge impact on Canadians from coast to coast to coast. It's great to be here at Startup Edmonton, a division of Innovate Edmonton that does amazing work to promote local innovation. Thanks for having us, Catherine. It is a real pleasure to be here, and thank you for everything you do for Alberta entrepreneurs. In last week's budget, we laid out our plan to grow our economy and invest in innovation and economic growth across the country. Canada is home to the third largest tech hub in North America, and Alberta is home to over 3,000 tech companies. These are innovative sectors that have the huge potential to create good, high-paying jobs for the future. And with the right tools, we can ensure Canada continues to be a global innovation leader. As many of us know, Canada has some of the best scientists, thinkers, entrepreneurs, and innovators in the world. But in order to bring those great ideas to market and help their businesses grow, they need support for research, development, and mostly commercialization. So we're going to help drive innovation and help them succeed and be competitive. Last week, we announced our intention to launch a new $1 billion Canada Innovation and Investment Agency. It'll work with many of the brilliant scientists, researchers, innovators, and inventors across the country to bring commercial success to businesses across different sectors. In the mining sector, the tourism sector, fisheries, and the high-tech sector, among everything else. We know there are some of the smartest and most innovative minds in the world. Brilliant academics, brilliant researchers here in Canada, but getting those ideas into concrete businesses that can hire workers and contribute to our economy is a challenge that we're stepping up to support. This agency will also help Canada's innovative startups to scale up, like those at Innovate Edmonton. Businesses like 2S Water, whose CEO, Anthea Sargent, is here today. 2S Water uses real-time data to monitor water quality for municipalities, resource companies, farmers, food producers, and more. Their technology keeps people safe, protects our environment, and is ready to scale up. Those are the kinds of businesses that need that extra support and loans or grants from an agency like this to really allow them to move forward and contribute not just to the Canadian economy, but to our well-being in Canada. Les entreprises comme celle-ci à Edmonton et ailleurs au pays ont énormément de potentiel de croissance. On va continuer d'être là et continuer les aider à innover. Notre gouvernement veut aussi aider toutes les petites entreprises à croître et à créer des emplois à travers l'économie. Présentement, le taux d'imposition des petites entreprises au Canada est le plus faible du G7, mais ce taux plafonne rapidement, ce qui peut décourager certaines entreprises d'atteindre leur plein potentiel. So we're going to cut taxes so that more growing businesses can take advantage of Canada's already low small business tax rate. See, Canada has the lowest small business tax rate in the G7, and we want to put that tax rate to work in encouraging more businesses to grow. That's why we're making sure that small businesses can benefit from that tax rate longer, even as they grow and scale up. Which means that as they grow, they can use this advantage to invest in themselves, hire more people, and grow even faster. We're also working to build more resilient supply chains so that you can get what you make to markets across Canada and around the world. Aux entrepreneurs et aux innovateurs qui travaillent fort, prennent des risques et trouvent des solutions aux problèmes d'aujourd'hui, notre message est simple. Notre gouvernement est là pour vous soutenir. We'll keep working to make sure that every person in Canada with a good idea can turn that idea into a successful business, create jobs, and compete and win in the changing global economy. That's how we'll grow the middle class and help the people working hard to join it. I'm now pleased to turn it over to Innovate Edmonton's CEO, Catherine Warren, who's helped many entrepreneurs here in Alberta. Catherine.
Thank you so much. Welcome, everybody. Bonjour et bienvenue à tous. Welcome to Innovate Edmonton. On behalf of our team and our board, it is my honor to be in your company to join MP Chahal in welcoming Prime Minister Trudeau to Alberta's capital city on Treaty 6 territory. At Innovate Edmonton, we are committed to empowering Indigenous innovation in the spirit of reconciliation, and I am grateful for what we can learn about innovating with purpose. Here in Edmonton, our vision of innovation is Big Tent, meaning it's wide open and it's inclusive. This includes tech innovation, yes, but it also includes cultural, social, sustainable, and Indigenous innovation, to name a few. Ultimately, the world needs what Edmonton offers. Edmonton offre ce que le monde a besoin. We are a vibrant city of risk-takers, committed to tackling great global challenges, such as the climate emergency, public health, and food security. Not only are these the right things to do, of course they are, but they're exactly what command international market share and where enlightened investors want to put their capital. At Innovate Edmonton, we position Edmonton as a global innovation capital, and we can all say with confidence that our city is on a roll. We were recently named North America's fastest growing tech sector. Nationally, we are a top 2 major metro for GDP growth. And Edmonton is advancing the renewable energy transition and welcoming billions in hydrogen investment. We know that private capital wants green investment. We know that green growth is economic growth. They are two sides of the same coin. At Innovate Edmonton, we also deliver programs for entrepreneurial growth, including through our $5 million Accelerator Fund, which aims to produce up to 270 startups, $1.5 billion in new revenue, and 6,000 good jobs, all by 2030. Participating companies like Areto Labs, led by Casey Machen, who's here with us right now, deploy artificial intelligence to make the online world and the real world a safer place. Thank you, Casey. And as a female entrepreneur myself, I appreciate what these generous supports can do. I know how doubly hard it is to commercialize IP, to raise capital, and what it would mean for underrepresented groups if we can raise the roof. So as a new organization, Innovate Edmonton is just getting started, and you'll continue to see us engage with young innovators, as with our joint programs for Black youth. You know, at its core, innovation is a team pursuit. It will take strange bedfellows. It will take all levels of government, and that's why we are so pleased to see the ambitious federal budget for innovation. It's this type of visionary investment that inspires Canadian municipal powerhouses just like this one. Premier Ministre Trudeau, c'est un plaisir de vous accueillir ici à Edmonton, votre capitale mondiale d'innovation. And of course, we still have a lot to do together and so much to look forward to. Early next year, we have our grand opening of Edmonton's new innovation destination. Prime Minister Trudeau, MP Chahal, members of the media, and honored guests, we hope you will join us once again in our new home on our big day. Merci à tous.
We'll now start the Q&A for 20 minutes, starting with the Globe and Mail.
Yeah, g'day, Prime Minister. Emma Graney with the Globe and Mail here. I want to talk to you about energy security briefly. Senator Manchin is here from the US. He and Premier Kenny are talking a lot about energy security, and there's calls from industry to formulate this kind of economic plan about how Canada fits into global energy security and also what role oil and gas plays in our future economy. Obviously, that's a huge deal here in Alberta. Are you going to commit to a mid to long-term plan for energy, and what might that look like in a net zero world?
I think we all know that with current pressures going on, the conflict in Ukraine and the desire to turn away from Russian oil and gas, there is an opportunity in the short term for Canadians and producers around the world to be responsive to that. But the other thing that Europe and places around the world are seeing is this is also an opportunity to go even faster in reducing our emissions, in transforming our energy mix. And Canada has long been moving towards that. Innovation and leaders here in the energy industry in Alberta and elsewhere across the country have always looked at how to reduce their carbon footprint, how to be part of the transformation that we know is coming. And our focus is on supporting workers as we move forward into an energy future that will be diversified, but require the kind of innovative thinking, engineers and problem solvers that has always characterized Alberta and the oil patch. We know that there is going to be an increasing need for reliable, safe, sustainable sources of energy, and Alberta and the Alberta energy sector is already investing massively in transforming itself to respond to those needs in the future, which is why, as a partner, this government will always be there to put workers first and to make sure that it's not just green jobs we're creating, but green careers for people for generations to come.
Next question.
Shailan Skalski with CTV News Edmonton. Thank you for taking my question. Premier Kenny has made it clear he would still like to see Keystone XL revived. Have you had any conversations with our Premier in regards to it, or any further conversations with President Biden?
As I have for many, many years, we've made our position clear and strong with the American administration that Canada is a reliable energy partner and needs to continue to be, and that's why we advocated for Keystone XL and why we continue to be interested in moving forward in responsible, sustainable ways. The conversations between Canada and the United States on energy issues are always ongoing. We are reliable, trusted partner that also understands the need to lead on the fight against climate change. That's something that we've been unequivocal on over the past 7 years. The Americans took a little detour, as it were, with an administration that didn't believe in the fight against climate change. But now the current American administration committed to being part of the solution to transform our global economy. The two of us are going to be able to work very well together to create a better, more prosperous future for Canadians, Americans, and people around the world.
Next question.
Hi, Prime Minister. Julia Wong with CBC News, hoping to get your answer in both English and French. The federal government has received about 120,000 applications from Ukrainians who are wanting to come to Canada. Only about a quarter of those have been approved, and we're hearing stories of families that have been separated during that process. A mother being approved and her 4-year-old daughter not being approved, and many others fitting that same mold. Now, I know that new processes were announced on Saturday, but what more is the federal government doing to get processing done faster? Does that look like hiring more immigration agents? Does that include making improvements to that online portal?
Canada continues to be one of the few countries in the world that is not only open to receiving people in a significant way, either fleeing conflict or war or just coming to better their economic situation, but the pressures we have are constant to do more and more. And that is a very good problem to have. But we're asking an awful lot of our systems in general, because there's a lot of things that Canadians are expecting. We need to do more and faster on just bringing in Canadians. We have targets of over new Canadians. We have targets of over 400,000 for this year. And with the challenge of the pandemic that had our borders closed for a while, we need to make up for lost time in welcoming in new Canadians to grow our economy and create ways to address the labor shortages. At the same time, we've committed to welcoming in Afghan refugees by the tens of thousands. We've already welcomed many, but there's much more to do, and that the situation over there is challenging in terms of just getting people out of Afghanistan, given the way the Taliban is preventing and obstructing people fleeing to safety. At the same time, the situation in Ukraine is heartbreaking and is extremely close to home for many people across the country who have family members and friends in Ukraine, and that's why we're also stepping up with them. We've launched rapid processes, and every immigration or refugee situation is different, but we've launched processes adapted to the reality of people seeking to come here from Ukraine, so that we can bring in as many people as possible, as quickly as possible, whether they just stay for a few years with their families until they can return to rebuild Ukraine after Putin loses this war, or whether they choose to live here permanently. We are going to be there to respond to them. Yes, it's a very difficult situation that has unfolded extremely quickly, but I can assure you that the Immigration Department and indeed the entire government is doing everything we can to welcome as many people as we can from as many places as we can as quickly as possible, which is what Canadians expect of us. Nous reconnaissons à quel point c'est important d'accueillir le plus de gens possible au Canada en termes d'immigrants, parce qu'on va en recevoir plus de 400 000 cette année, mais aussi en termes de réfugiés, des gens qui fuient l'Afghanistan, où on a une responsabilité d'aider des dizaines de milliers de personnes à venir, et on reconnaît que c'est extrêmement difficile de les faire sortir de l'Afghanistan à cause de l'interférence des talibans. Mais aussi en termes de l'Ukraine, où on a mis des mesures en place pour accueillir le plus grand nombre de gens le plus rapidement possible. On va continuer de faire tout le travail nécessaire pour pouvoir aider le plus grand nombre de gens possible, parce qu'on sait que ça enrichit de façon infinie notre pays en même temps.
And just to follow up on what you were saying about Afghanistan, I recognize that you're saying it is a very challenging situation, but there continues to be concern that there isn't the same level of support for Afghan translators who are trying to bring their families here. How do you respond to critics saying the treatment continues to be unequal, and what are you doing to level that playing field?
Well, obviously the situation is very different when we're talking about refugees fleeing from different places around the world. In Ukraine, they're fleeing a war where they are being welcomed by neighboring countries refugees and facilitated in their travel and in supports. In Afghanistan, the government, the Taliban, is interfering with their ability to be processed. It is unsafe for Canadians to be there on the ground to process them, so we're having to work with third countries. It's a much more difficult and challenging process. But so saying, we've already welcomed close to 10,000 Afghan refugees. We have a responsibility to so many people who've contributed to Canada in really tangible, really direct ways, and that's why we're continuing to be incredibly ambitious, and we'll be welcoming well over 40,000 refugees from Afghanistan in the coming years.
Next question.
Hi, it's Lisa Johnson from the Edmonton Journal. I just wanted to follow up on some of my colleagues' questions earlier. I mean, you mentioned that you're in further conversations about energy and projects, including KXL, but I mean, to be more blunt about it, I mean, Premier Kenney has opened the door for this, and he's courting the senator as we speak. Is he beating a dead horse here?
That's a decision for the United States. We have continued and consistently to advocate for Canada as a partner on energy to the United States, whether it's traditional energy like oil and gas, or whether it's renewables and innovative solutions to fuel the future in a low-carbon way. Canada is always going to be there to work with allies and partners around the world and indeed develop solutions that the world needs, whether it's conversations about hydrogen with the United States or with our European partners. When I got back from my trip to Europe a few weeks ago, we immediately started digging in even further and even more ambitiously than the ambition we'd already laid out on hydrogen, because we know how key that is to fueling the future in zero emission ways. That's something that Edmonton, for example, is already leading strongly on, and we look forward to having those conversations as well with our American partners. But we are committed to fighting against climate change and reducing emissions, not just because it's the right thing to do, but it's also the only thing to do to make sure that there are good jobs in Alberta and across the country in the energy sector. We know the world is changing fast, and we know that the kind of innovative hard work and leadership that Albertans have always shown in terms of developing energy solutions is needed, not just by the rest of Canada, but the world, in how we build a zero-emission future. And I'm excited about the investments we're making and the partnerships of so many Albertans who get it, who understand that far from being a threat, climate change is also an opportunity to build a better future for their kids, for their grandkids, through the hard work that Albertans have always been ready to do to build a better future.
Next question.
Hi, Brianna Karsten-Smith with Global Edmonton. I have a quick follow-up about that and then a second question. But Alberta has a huge supply of lithium carbonate. How is your government going to be capitalizing on that and investing in that development?
We know that the availability of critical minerals is something that is of preoccupation to countries around the world right now. A couple of large and somewhat less friendly countries these days, China and Russia, have dominated the global market for critical minerals, and that's why Canada, that has, as you point out, extraordinary mining, mineral, and critical minerals resources, is looking to develop reliable supply chains to the world, whether it's powering electric batteries for vehicles, creating the kinds of advanced technology and high-tech we need for a greener future. Canada has the natural resources and the mineral resources to be able to contribute to the world in a reliable, friendly way. And that is something that we've invested in massively in this budget. We know that Canadian mining expertise that has always been cutting edge, that has higher environmental standards, higher labor standards than most countries around the world, is the kind of solution that increasingly our partners and allies around the world are going to look for. And I'm very excited about what we've invested in this budget to make sure that we're moving forward and unlocking that potential for Canadian jobs and Canadian economic growth.
Just quickly, councillors here in Edmonton yesterday voted to move forward with decriminalizing simple possession for illegal drugs. Their goal is by early 2023. Of course, they'll need the federal government's approval. Will you give that approval by early 2023?
We will welcome their application when it comes in to the federal government through the processes. I can highlight that we're already working with the government of British Columbia on their application on a similar issue, and we're going to make sure we're grounded in science, grounded in supporting people. The reality is, here in Alberta, we've seen far too many tragedies around the opioid epidemic. I had a great conversation with Mayor Sohi about it last night when I got into town, and I can tell you that he and all of us are extremely worried about what Albertans are going through in terms of the opioid epidemic. We know that science-based, community-based solutions are a huge part of it. That's why, as a government, we've continued to push for safe consumption sites. It's unfortunate to see Alberta seems to be going in the opposite direction, away from a science-based and harm reduction approach. We know that municipal leaders, like here in Edmonton, are serious about supporting people through this terrible tragedy and basing those decisions on science and data, because that's how we get through this crisis.
Next question.
Mirna Djukic pour Radio-Canada. D'abord, je veux revenir sur l'accueil des réfugiés. On dit encore que les interprètes ont de la difficulté, les interprètes afghans, à amener leur famille au Canada. Ils disent que c'est 2 poids, 2 mesures, et je comprends que c'est une situation différente, mais qu'est-ce que le Canada fait spécifiquement pour égaliser les chances, en fait?
La réalité, c'est que chaque situation est différente, et nos cœurs brisent pour les familles des interprètes qui sont pris en Afghanistan, avec un gouvernement des talibans qui sont en train d'empêcher ces gens à pouvoir quitter, à pouvoir suivre les processus pour pouvoir venir au Canada. Donc, nous travaillons avec nos partenaires, nous travaillons avec nos alliés, nous cherchons des façons d'amener plus de gens de l'Afghanistan plus rapidement, parce que c'est une grande priorité pour nous. On a déjà accueilli 10 000 personnes de l'Afghanistan. On va en faire encore plus. On a promis d'en faire plus que 40 000 et on va le faire. Mais la situation est extrêmement difficile et nous devons de travailler de façon responsable pour les amener le plus rapidement possible.
Et toujours sur le sujet de l'Ukraine, le Royaume-Uni soupçonne qu'il y a une utilisation d'armes chimiques de la part de Russie. Est-ce que vous avez les mêmes soupçons? Et si ça s'avère, qu'est-ce que ça va changer à la réponse du Canada? Bien,
on a vu depuis le début de ce conflit que l'armée russe et Vladimir Poutine en particulier sont en train d'utiliser des moyens inacceptables et illégaux dans cette guerre qui est déjà illégale. Donc, nous allons continuer de faire un suivi extrêmement proche avec nos alliés sur ce qui se passe, de cibler les civils, de cibler des hôpitaux, d'utiliser de la violence sexuelle comme arme de guerre. C'est absolument inacceptable et c'est pour ça que le Canada était parmi un des premiers pays à aller à la Cour de justice, à la Cour pénale internationale pour exiger des conséquences pour Poutine et pour la Russie. En plus de ça, nous avons envoyé des enquêteurs de la GRC pour pouvoir faire un suivi sur des rapports comme ceux-là, pour pouvoir monter comme il faut toutes les preuves nécessaires pour s'assurer que Vladimir Poutine paye pour ses crimes contre l'humanité.
We'll take one last question. Just Emma Graney at the Globe again. Just to follow up on something you mentioned earlier about hydrogen. Now, the CCUS tax credit, about 50% for blue hydrogen from natural gas, but it's only 30% for clean hydrogen from, renewable sources. How come you guys have got a massive 20% discrepancy there?
We know that investing in transforming our energy mix and reducing our carbon emissions is going to be key in not just protecting the planet, but ensuring prosperity for Canadians from coast to coast to coast, particularly good jobs for people here in Alberta and for communities across the energy sector. And that's why we know that carbon capture, utilization utilization and storage is an important part of the path forward. We've made significant investments. We're moving forward with generous tax credits to incentivize the kind of work that's being done. All those decisions were based on the best analysis of what is needed to actually move things forward in the fastest and most responsible way. Our budget is focused on growing the economy by creating clean, green jobs, by supporting families, and by supporting small businesses with things like extending the small business tax credit even as small businesses grow, so that we can support Canadians now and into the future. Merci beaucoup tout le monde.
This is what I said at his press conference. Thank you.